Hey everyone, my name is Zach. I'm a 23-year-old competitive boulderer from Canada, currently living in Montreal. Welcome back to the COMPCLIMB training series, where I record most of my training, provide in-depth analysis of every session, and just chat about climbing with an emphasis on competition. So the time has finally come. I'm going to have my first day of training at Bloc 2, and boy, have I been getting excited for this, especially seeing just some content on social media of people having their own sessions. At the time that this session is happening, it's only the second day that the gym has been open to the public. The competition wasn't the grand opening to the public. It was closed for another week after that. And now the time has finally come for everyone to start climbing in this gym, which is very, very exciting. And the gym has pretty much been almost fully reset since the comp. They have a few of the scramble qualification boulders still up in the main two rooms. And then the comp wall, I think, is all brand new boulders except for one. I think it's just the super cool 360 campus move from finals is the only finals boulder still up. And then everything else on the comp wall is brand new. So yeah, first things first, let's cover this grading system here at Bloc 2. So I didn't actually know about this until I walked into the gym today. We have a new grading system, different from any gym in Montreal. And so this is one of the main two rooms where you could consider it like the main gym sets or like the commercial boulders. And basically it's a circuit that goes from 1 to 14. So you can see that white boulder we just did was an 11 out of 14. So that's not necessarily a V grade at all. It's a circuit grade. So this was definitely tripping me up at first because the boulders seemed like they were almost the V grade of the boulder, but not quite. The general rule of thumb I was noticing that I was using was that you subtract about 2 numbers from the circuit grade, and that's the approximate V grade. But since it is a circuit, you can't have like a hard and fast rule like that. It just won't translate. But yeah, that's like kind of the general idea. And yeah, it was like really taking a while to get used to 14 circuits, which at first felt like a lot. But then I kind of thought to myself, well, Beta Bloc actually has a pretty similar system. They have circuits from 1 to 6, but each circuit has 3 different tiers. So they actually have 18 circuits. So yeah, I was realizing that it actually wasn't as crazy as I thought at first. And as I was getting used to it, I could tell that I was already starting to like it. I definitely like something new and fresh. Personally, I genuinely enjoy when gyms have their own style of grading and kind of create some unique system other than V grades. I actually really enjoy it, especially as like a comp climber. I find the added challenge of just a different number or a different something kind of trying to throw you off is kind of fun to play with, and it helps you focus on just thinking about the boulder in front of you and the moves and trying to have your own sort of barometer for how hard a boulder feels, so that you don't actually need a V grade to tell you it. You can just kind of get a own sense for yourself. So yeah, I kind of find it quite fun. Anyway, let's talk about a tip of the day really quick on this move that I'm trying here on this COMPCLIMB boulder. Check out my right arm. That's going to lead us into the tip of the day. So for this tip, we're going to be talking about the situation in where we're standing into an undercling that is flat or slopey. If the undercling is in-cut or juggy, this doesn't really apply because we can just easily stand up into the undercling. But in the situation where the hold is slopey like this one, there's actually some very nuanced movement that is involved, and it could kind of be chalked up to bending your arm, but there is more nuance than that. And the reason is because the hold is slopey. So I'm bending my right arm here, but what I'm also doing is I'm kind of contorting my wrist into closer to a 90-degree angle instead of being in a more neutral straight position. And when I'm bending my right arm, I'm almost pressing into this hold rather than pulling on it as you would in like a bicep curl. Now, this does a couple things. One, it brings my center of gravity closer to the wall and more over my feet and my hips so that I can take some weight off my arms, but it also shortens my lever of my bicep and gets a bit more power out of this position. And you'll notice I do this successfully on this attempt, but then I kind of forget about this. And on my future attempts, I start trying to do this move with a straight arm, and I'm realizing that I'm running into trouble and I don't know why. And the reason I'm straight arming this hold is because it's a sloper. And typically you'd want to lay back on a sloper like this to try and make it into a more positive hold. But actually the more effective way is to kind of press your wrist into this hold, thus bending your bicep and kind of creating the shorter lever, and your wrist is in a 90-degree angle, and then your weight is over your hips, and you just want to scooch, scooch, scooch until you can finally engage your wrist and your bicep. Yeah, it's kind of a very nuanced movement, but when we're standing into hard, slopey underclings, keep this in mind and really have it at the forefront of when you're trying this move. This is also a very fun move to work on. It's a very superhero feeling move when you just inch your way slowly into engaging that bicep and that wrist. It's a very powerful superhero feeling move. And this boulder was really fun. Yeah, so I guess one obvious thing to point out on this boulder, first of all, it's on the comp wall, so it's a comp set, and we're doing multicolor sets on the comp wall, which I think is so epic and allows for a lot of creativity. And so, yeah, this boulder is quite hard, and you'll notice on the start hold, I was actually grabbing the side of it. But anyway, we'll talk more about this boulder because I'm not going to send it here. Like I was talking about in the tip of the day, I was forgetting to implement the bending of my right arm. And so I was falling on that move after having done it. So yeah, I couldn't quite send it in this morning session, but we'll revisit that one in the second session. And yeah, like check out these boulders in the comp wall, man. They are super awesome. With the multicolor, it can be kind of hard to pick out the boulders at first, but they're very intuitive with the multicolor combinations. You can tell the setters like make it very obvious to distinguish which boulder is which. So this one we're trying here is the blue and white holds, and it's a crazy move. At first, I thought it was this full like run across, like we jump to the right and then run all the way to the 2 footholds and then press into the last white sloper. But then that was feeling like so ridiculous. And so I'm thinking if I can stop or something. But yeah, we'll also revisit this one in the second session. And I was talking to one of the setters and they were giving me some beta. And yeah, we'll attack that boulder with some better beta going forward. But yeah, in this morning session, I wasn't feeling the best. I was definitely feeling a little bit of soreness from our pretty good days of training at Beta Bloc. And in particular, I hadn't done pistol squats in a while. And we did 4 reps in the last episode. And so I was actually like barely able to walk around throughout this day of training. It was a bit better on the wall. But yeah, I was having some serious delayed muscle soreness today with the legs. And that tells me as well that I have probably been having some rusty leg strength and power in recent times since it's been so long since I've trained pistol squats. But yeah, I was walking around with like sore, heavy legs today. I had to put some A5 on last night and it was just painful and burning. But yeah, it was actually very nice that it wasn't affecting me too much on the wall. And so I was finishing off the morning session with this really awesome slab here. This one was very, very cryptic and was taking me a while to figure out. You see, I couldn't tell if we were meant to press between these 2 big holds and then work our way up. But then here I'm able to find, which is probably the idea, a very tricky stand-up move. The zone is a tiny little crimp and makes this stand-up move very difficult. And also makes this transition move quite difficult as well. This move seems like we're meant to kind of stand and do a press on this little circle, but this little circle is a little bit too close. Like it's like closer than you want it because you can't quite lean into the dihedral. But it's not too close to the point where the move doesn't work. It's like so close that you have to be absolutely perfect with how much you throw your momentum into the corner. But on that last try, I actually realized as I was falling that the finish hold is a little bit too close, at least for me, which means that I'm actually able to do this and skip this. You can tell I almost wanted to use the little circle, but then halfway through the move, I decided, no, I think I can just reach the finish, and I was able to. So I think if they moved the finish like a little bit down and to the right, or maybe just made it like a worse hold, I wouldn't be able to break. Like, I think this is a break, and I'm breaking the ending sequence here. But yeah, I think maybe if that boulder is up again and we come back to Rose Block 2, that's worth repeating and trying to learn that really precarious, like perfect throwing of my momentum into the dihedral and sticking that little circle, because it could easily be a different ending of that boulder and I would have to do that. But anyway, we are at the second session now, and holy cow, I was feeling like way stronger in this session than I was in the morning. Like I said, I wasn't feeling the best in the morning, but we had a big jump in terms of how I was feeling. And I know I say this all the time, I just always feel so much better in the second session, but this one was one of the bigger differences I've had in a while. Very, very stark contrast. And I just had like superpowers to play with, it felt like, in comparison to the morning. And so I wanted to definitely jump back on all of these powerful boulders, including this one, which is a very, very nice boulder. Actually, I really like this one. It's got some cool, creative, tensiony moves, which are kind of a little bit few and far between sometimes in the Rose Block with all the comp style setting we do. Sometimes the body tension and the lock-offs get lost. So this one I thought was really cool, and I don't climb on this style a lot. But for this boulder, we go into the sloper here, which is pretty bad. And then this move here is one of the cool tensiony moves. I mean, you hit this crimp and you just have to really engage your back in order to keep the foot. And then we do a nice, powerful lock-off to another sloper, and then some more really nice static tension with a very satisfying drop knee. And then you got to really engage the core on this toe hook move going to the second last, because it's quite a shallow toe hook. And yeah, I really like the movement on that boulder, and it was super cool. And my first 14 send of the new Rose Block. And then actually, I guess I didn't point out the grading on the comp wall yet. So the comp wall doesn't use the 1 to 14 circuit. The comp wall boulders are basically a 1 to 5 circuit. So you got R1, R2, R3, R4, and R5. So this one is an R5, one of the hardest boulders in the comp wall. You can see I'm side pulling the right-hand sloper start instead of grabbing the really terrible middle part of it. And yeah, I'm feeling like much stronger in this session, and so I knew that I was going to be able to do this one, which was really satisfying. And yeah, I utilized the tip of the day correctly this time as well. And then yeah, for the comp wall boulders, for the R circuit, there are 3 boulders in each circuit, which is really cool. There's a lot of boulders on the comp wall actually. And so for the R5s right now, we have the 2 that we've already tried, the slab, and then the one we just did. And then the finals M4 from the Rose Block Championship, the 360 campus paddle was the other R5. And then this boulder as well, I was about to say you may recognize, but I actually don't think it was in the Rose Block qualifier video, because I tried to pull onto the start holds in the qualifier once, and it felt so hard, and I could tell like this boulder is just not needed. And so I didn't try this one in the qualifying at all. But it looks like an awesome boulder, so I definitely wanted to finally get on it today. And this one didn't end up getting topped in the qualifying at all. A few people fell on this move here from the start, going up to the second last hold, and this second last pinch is miserable. And so is the last hold and like the undercling to set you up for the last move. The pinches at the end are so bad. And the beginning here is okay. It's really aggressive and intense, especially on the skin. I haven't talked about that yet, but I was being very careful throughout the whole day of training with my skin. And the aggressive nature of like that start move and just these really powerful moves, I could tell I was only going to be able to put a few tries on this boulder. And you're going to see from our next try, I'll just tell you, watch my right hand on the start hold. I'm going to have a soul-crushing dry fire. This one hurt so bad, I felt my soul leave my body and I just died from this dry fire on this super textured hold. And throughout the rest of the attempt, I'm just crying. You can see it there. But I stayed on the wall somehow, and I'm like, okay, I guess I'll just keep going. And I know that while I'm on the wall here, that this will definitely be the last time I try this boulder. And so I'm thinking, okay, I better fight, and I better make it count. And I'm like hoping that my hand isn't bleeding after that dry fire as well. You can see I check my right hand. But then I'm like, kind of do this move really well up to the second last, and all of a sudden I think, oh, hey, maybe I can send this boulder. But the last move is no gimme either. Like, both of those pinches are so bad, and with all the fluffing around at the beginning, I wasn't set up well for the send of that one. But that was a satisfying finish move dropper. And like I said in the past couple episodes, like, we're really going to be trying to focus on training well and not putting so much of an emphasis on actually sending boulders when there's no more value to be gained from the boulder. And that last one is a good example. I fell on the last move. I know there's no move to learn on that boulder. It's just like physical. So I shouldn't try that boulder again, just to get a satisfying send. So I was able to successfully walk away from it. I had to with the skin, but I also wouldn't have tried it again, even with good skin. Anyway, we're revisiting this super epic boulder, and you can see the new beta that I'm using from one of the setters told me to try it like this, and it is so sick. Oh my goodness. And then I also realized that it's possible to static your way through these footholds. It's very, very difficult though. Like, this is maximum balance that I'm having to implement on these volumes. They're so slopey. And actually, I want to talk about a second tip of the day really quick. So I know we don't usually do 2 tips of the day in one video, but this one is really quick, and it's been something I've been doing a lot recently, and I keep forgetting to talk about it. It's really important. So when we're doing any moves where we have some crimps on a slab, and it's kind of a dynamic pull into a position, very much like this first move here, I've been really liking to do these moves with 3 fingers, grabbing the holds with 3 fingers, because I find that I don't actually need the extra power with my pinky on, because usually the moves will be quite balanced and controlled. I don't actually need the extra power. And switching to 3 fingers allows me to bring myself that extra bit further away from the wall, very, very micro amount. But of course, being further away from the wall gives us more air time to play with while we're moving through the dynamic move. And even just extending your hand a little bit and giving yourself more air time and more processing time, you can see I'm sticking this move every time, whereas I didn't stick it at all in the morning. And I was doing this in the second session and not in the morning. So yeah, really give this a try with crimps on a slab where we're pulling into a dynamic move. Switch to 3 fingers to bring you a little bit further away from the wall, so you have more time coming into the wall and giving your mind more time to process. So yeah, this tip of the day, super useful, and just is one of the ones that's really, really noticeable. I find that I've just been really doing this all the time on these kinds of moves on the slab, and it's been working really well. And then check this out. I'm in comp mode here on this attempt. I'm trying my absolute hardest to balance and being super slow. And check out the thumbs down tip of the day. This one actually came in really clutch. I felt like I was gonna fall there, and I said, hey, let me just put my thumbs down. And I actually felt that extra bit of stability. And then this last move is also super precarious. We have to jump up to this blocked crimp, and it's really small and sharp, and it was very satisfying to snag that. But for any new viewers who don't know about the thumbs down tip of the day on the slab, it's a really, really good one, and I'll link it in the description. It's an awesome one to keep referring back to, and I'll timestamp it to when we talk about the thumbs down tip of the day and why it's useful. So yeah, check the description for that. And then we're going to finish this session off with a couple slabs. Even though it's a Boulder Max 4 session, it's okay if we stray from the rules a little bit, especially near the end of the session. And this, I wanted to do this because, first of all, my skin was definitely getting pink. I'm lucky to not be bleeding yet. But yeah, take some weight off the skin, and there also just weren't as many like super hard physical boulders up in the gym. We had finally finished most of them off, everything except the super hard teal one. But I don't know if I'll be getting back to that boulder anytime soon. It's really hard in the skin. And man, I just gotta say as well, like, I thought Rose Block 1 was one of, if not the best slab gyms in the area, but Rose Block 2 takes it even further. There are so many slab walls, and every slab we've gotten on today is like super awesome. Like really good quality and really good styles that I need to work on. Like all super bouncy, where trusting your feet are so important. And this was another great example. Like there are no handholds on this boulder. It's just all about balancing, which is a really good practice. And yeah, every slab that we've got on today, we've needed to really trust some feet, and there's no hands to really grab on. So I feel like I'll probably make some slab gains training on these slabs going forward. And then I almost forgot at the end of this session, like we've been talking about for a while now, the training is going to be switching up, and we're going to be kicking it into the next gear and really trying to level up with the grip strength. So I'm actually going to be doing a form of grip strength every training day. So it sounds crazy at first, but it's actually not that crazy. I'm not going to be training crimps necessarily every day. On the day ones of training, I'm going to be doing sloper hangs and pinch block. And then on day 2, we'll do our crimp hangs and our 3-finger drag hangs. And so today is the sloper and pinch day. Some pretty low reps. You can check the program link in the description to see exactly what they are. But they hadn't put their beast makers up at Rose Block 2 yet, so I just did my pinches today. The slopers are probably the least important of all the grip types, at least for the training, so it wasn't that big of a deal that I wasn't able to do them today. But yeah, I did the pinches, and then we'll do our crimp training tomorrow. And yeah, anyway, let's jump into the next day of training. I'll be coming back to Rose Block for some spray wall. So here we are the next day, and on the agenda for our first session, we're gonna indeed do the spray wall like I was talking about, and then immediately followed by a workout. And I was thinking, it has been a really long time since I've trained spray wall. And what I mean by this is since I've climbed on a spray wall, and like with feet, you know? We've been doing plenty of campusing over the past few months, but I'm thinking about it, and I think I haven't bouldered on a spray wall since like February or something, maybe even January. And even then it was just a little short bout of it, and it was even longer before that. So I think it's been almost like a full year since I've done any climbing on a spray wall, which is kind of crazy to think about. But yeah, like we've said in the past few videos, the theme with the training going forward is that projecting really hard boulders, I think, is important. And especially when we're training for the World Cup, I need to be getting on boulders that are like at my physical limit and really trying to push my physical strength as far as it can go. And training on spray wall is one good way to do this. And also this spray wall at Rose Block 2 is just absolutely incredible and looks like so much fun to climb on, which I learned after this session was indeed quite true. This thing is so sick. I think it's 45 degrees. And the setters were telling me that like they really put a lot of effort into this wall. When they were setting it, it got rebuilt like 3 or 4 times. Like, you know, they're a third of the way done and they don't like it. It's not perfect. And they take everything down and they put it back up. That's how much effort went into this spray wall. Very impressive stuff. And for anyone who knows the street wall in France, the famous spray wall, one of the people that set that spray wall also helped set this spray wall and gave some French inspiration, which was pretty cool. And super quick before I forget, I want to shout out the app that I'm using right now. So this app is called Crux, and it's kind of like a Stoked app or a RetroFlash app, one of these spray wall apps, except the difference with this one is that you can basically do it yourself. So this picture of the app that you can see on the right, I just took that picture before my session, and then this app uses AI to scan all the holds, and that way you can select them rather than having to draw circles around them. But it's actually really cool. And Crux reached out to me to ask if I could feature the app, and it's actually quite convenient because this spray wall isn't on any other apps yet. For those who don't know, the setters are going to really take their time with this one, like this spray wall, and have it evolve a little bit over time and make little tweaks here and there to perfect the wall. So they're not putting it on an app in the near future. So we got like a couple different things going on. I'm using this Crux app, and then I know some other people are using RetroFlash for some boulders. If you're someone who wants to climb at this gym and use a spray wall app. But anyway, yeah, shout out to Crux, very cool AI scanning of this wall. And yeah, so for this session, since this is our first time climbing on the spray wall, one of the most difficult things about climbing on a new spray wall is getting used to it. You got to get used to the angle of the wall, the density. I was really learning just how difficult it was to flag and smear on this wall, since it's probably the densest spray wall that I've actually like properly sessioned on. You got to get used to all these things. You got to get used to the holds. A lot of the times when I make boulders on a brand new spray wall, they end up being so overcooked because I just imagine every hold being better than it is, and you go and you realize that holds are worse. So anyway, with these boulders that I'm making up today, I tried to undershoot the difficulty of them by a whole lot. Like I promised you, all of the boulders that we've been trying so far, I have made them with the idea that I would probably be flashing them. I'm like, okay, this boulder looks like I could flash it. That means it's perfect because it means it's actually going to be 2 grades harder than I think. And it genuinely proved to be the case. So that's kind of how I always go about thinking when I'm making boulders on a new spray wall that I'm not familiar with. And then the difficulty ends up working. And then as I get used to the wall and I know exactly what the holds feel like, it's much easier to make up boulders and I can be a bit more accurate. And yeah, not only was I trying to undershoot the difficulty, but I was also trying not to make like super projects yet. Just with this first session, like I said, I want to get used to the wall. So I'm making some boulders that are more sendable. Whereas when we go forward with the more spray wall training, the idea with our spray wall sessions is we won't really even be sending these boulders, and it's more to work on sequences, work on moves that are at like our physical limit. And it would be cool to send some of the boulders, but for the most part, we shouldn't be sending things. Like I think on this attempt here, we're about to get a cool send of this one, which will make 3 for 3 sends so far. And when we start doing some legit spray wall sessions, this should be the opposite of what's happening. We should be 0 for 3 sends. But yeah, I wanted to have like kind of a fun session on this wall today and get used to it. But this one actually though was a pretty good send. I had to fight hard for this one. This one definitely wasn't a gimme, and I thought that boulder was quite cool. And then this boulder that we're finishing off with, my session was winding down, and then Caleb Thomas came and started doing his own session on the spray wall. For those who don't know Caleb, he's the director of setting for the Bloc shop gyms. And so I said, hey, you're a good setter. Why don't you make me one move and then I'll build around it? And so he made this first move, which is actually like a super epic move. I really like this. It's just a straight flat hold to flat hold dyno to like just a pinchy pinch. Super, super awesome. And yeah, like this one's by Caleb. And I think, okay, on this next try, I'm gonna peace out for a second so you can listen to Caleb's reaction to me on this move.
Come on, Jack, let's go. Let's go, big dog, come on.
Yeah, that one was hilarious. Every attempt I kept getting like a little bit closer, and then it felt like so satisfying to finally stick that move. It was super sick, and Caleb freaked out, and it was hilarious. So yeah, that one will be a project. And I guess I didn't point out, you saw that I grabbed like the purple pinch, whereas on the app it has a different hold. That's because the purple pinch was the original idea, and then it turned out to be like so bad. So we tweaked the ending, and then the version of it that's on the app is what we'll go try again in the future. Something a little bit more doable. And then we were doing our workout immediately following, and you'll notice we did some one arms at the beginning. It's been a long time since I've done one arm pull-ups. Everything else in this workout is pretty much our bread and butter stuff. Nothing really too new. You can see I'm supersetting some of the exercises too to make the workout go faster. That's really, really important. Otherwise it would be too long. But yeah, the idea with the one arm pull-ups is my one arm strength is quite good. For those who don't know, I've got a one arm chin up PB at like an additional 35 pounds, and then a one arm pull up PB at I think 25 pounds. I don't think I've done 30. So kind of like I don't really need to push the weight of this any further. Like it's better to divert my time to other things such as weaknesses. But the reason I'm training the one arms is because I'm kind of at the point where I need to do like a little bit of a refresh. Every 5 or 6 months is kind of how I go about doing this. So every 5 or 6 months, I'll do a little short bout of one arm training just to keep it updated and fresh. But anyway, check out these little resistance bands I got. I put this clip in so I wouldn't forget to talk about them. You can see how there's like 5 different levels of lightness and heaviness. Anyway, for those who haven't heard in our previous like program breakdowns and whatnot, I'm gonna start like a new finger training protocol. So what we did our slopes and pinches on day 1, and then day 2 is when we do our crimp hangs. So for our crimp hangs, we're gonna be doing half crimp hangs and 3 finger drag hangs. And I have always done my crimp hangs with 2 hands, and then I just load on a bunch of weight. But I've really hit a plateau over the years, and it's really hard to just keep loading on weight. And I've done a lot of thinking about this, honestly. Not only is it just like the physical force that I'm putting through my fingers, but it's also, I think the idea with these one arm hangs is that they also train the coordination involved to actually hang off a small hold with one arm. And especially when we're doing like a resistance band in our other arm, it's very much training the movement of, you have to catch a crimp, or you're just loading a crimp and your other arm is offset. And we're very much mimicking the situation that we can find ourselves on while we're climbing quite frequently. But anyway, with the resistance bands, you can see where this hang is a level 9 hang. So what that means basically is I'm like doubling up the resistance bands because I'm not quite strong enough to do these one arm hangs with even just a little bit of weight taken off. This is going to be a really long learning process and training grind, I think. So the level 9 basically means we have 5 dots between the 2 resistance bands. I'm using the black one is the extra heavy resistance band, and then the red one is the heavy one or whatever. So the black one is 5 dots, and then the red one is 4 dots, meaning this is a level 9 hang. And then the lower the level, like the lower the number, the harder it is. So when we start getting to level 1, that's like I'm almost doing the one arm hang, right? So that's going to be our new training barometer, basically. And I think that our progress will actually be very trackable with these resistance bands, and that's why I wanted to get them, rather than doing it with something like just like a rope or something and kind of trying to take as much weight off as possible. That's a little bit less trackable. Another good way is with the pulley system. I just like the resistance bands because it's easier to set up and it's just very convenient. And convenience is definitely like not something to be underestimated with training. It can really just make your life good. But yeah, anyway, I'm really psyched to start training these 2 new kinds of hangboard, like building the coordination and just getting used to hanging off one arm on these hard grip positions, I feel like this could be a really good improvement in my finger strength going forward. And it's also new and fresh, and that's important to do with training sometimes as well, is just to mix it up. So anyway, I'm very interested to see the progress going forward with these. Since it's brand new, we should be making steady progress. So I'm very interested to track it and show it along in the videos. But anyway, that's the end of this one. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.